Right, welcome back to the fourth day of the Cheltenham preview. Again, we're joined by James Stevens from the Racing Post, and we'll start into it, boys. The Triumph Hurdle. It's a good Triumph Hurdle this year, and for me, I'm going for the second favourite here, Calexius, 6-1. Gordon Elliott's training looked foot perfect ever since debut, really, and won at Leopardstown last weekend. Again, can't really fault much in it. I do think he will win the Triumph over Zanahiyr, although my record at the Triumph has been absolutely appalling in the past few years. I've been tipping up these horses and they've came nowhere in the Triumph Hurdle. Dean, yourself, you're probably keen on Zanahiyr, are you?
Yeah, I'm very, very much keen on Zanahiyr, and it was interesting to read in the Racing Post the other day where Gordon Elliott confirmed that Zanahiyr was definitely going to the Triumph, with the suspicions about it was the Supreme or something they was on about, and he says that they would explore the route of a handicap with Calexius depending on what mark he got. So that was also very interesting. Be interesting to see if the two of them rock up together, because they're two exceptional horses. I just been really impressed with Zanahiyr. The way he won a Ferry House blew me out of the water, really, and I think he really caught the eye of a lot of people that day, Ruby Walsh and a few others included. And then the way he won at Leopardstown, this kind of race is made for him, I think.
James?
Yeah, I'm with you, Ryan, on the second favourite. I just feel he's a proper old jump. He's got a bit of class. He's not flashy. He's not really doing it in any sort of style. But I just love the way he goes about his business. He just sort of gets himself in a nice position and sees it off. I think he's, for me, he'd be the bet I'd have. I also would give mention to Tritonic as well for Alan King, who was really quite impressive. First time at Ascot on his hurdling debut. I mean, he was a very, very good flat horse. He was only just beaten at Royal Ascot last year. And I mean, he won a conditions race at Newbury, which is usually sort of a derby trial. So his form there is very, very strong. And I mean, he, in terms of flat ratings, I think he's a fair bit higher than the favourite here. And he's taken well to hurdling. He seems like he's on the up. He's going to have one more run, I think, before Cheltenham at Kempton next week. So we'll learn a bit more about him. But I think at this point, he's a really good bet at the prices, and he could be a hell of a lot shorter in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, this race actually, for me, I'm going to be in agreement with Dean. It's actually my nap of the meeting. I'm very, very strong on Zanahiyr. I was just, when the camera angle changed for anybody watching it against St. Sam at Ferryhouse, he went up past him that quick. I don't think anybody's seen how quick he was gone by him. He went on and won by 14 lengths. He was very, very impressive. Barry Garrity rides out for Gordon Elliott, and he's highly touted this horse for a long, long time. Now, he's comparing Calexius and Zanahiyr, I think the last time when they ran. Like, for me, he said, Calexius probably will have to improve again. I just think Zanahiyr, I think he'll have far too much speed for him. And I think he'll be away and gone like he was in Ferryhouse. And I think he could be probably one of the most impressive winners of the week.
That's a big shout there, Alan.
Just on that as well. Go ahead.
What price is Zanahiyr? They're 5-2, is it?
5-2, 11. Oh, yeah.
Just on, when James mentioned there about Tritonic, I actually had Tritonic wrote down for the Supreme, I think it was, he was entered in as well, and he was scratching that the other day, so I took that out of there. But again, it would be one to keep an eye on at a big price, because he has got real potential over hurdles, like in them big staying handicaps at like the Royal Ascot and the big meetings. He was always thereabouts.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the county handicap hurdle. Look, this is another one where we don't really know what's going to it just yet. For me, I'm going to take a punt on Salyer, the Willie Mullins trained one. He's entered into the champion hurdle, but I think he will go here. He did get absolutely destroyed by Honeysuckle in the Irish champion hurdle, and he was poor enough in the Madison hurdle as well. I just get a feeling Willie might send him here and let the other two go to the champion hurdle, Sharjah and St. Wa. Dean, yourself, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would be in agreement with you there, Ryan. Saldair, I've Saldair noted down. Like, he was impressive enough one on Leopardstown. The other one that I think could be overlooked by a few is Master McShee. If he rocks up here, I see he's got an entry here. Chased home appreciated in Cork on debut, then came out and won since, and won one of the big ones at Leopardstown, and was well out of it on his last run at Leopardstown there. But 16-1 about him and 11-1 about Sal there. Like, there's value in them bets if you can get an on-run or no bet.
Yep. Alan?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the head of the market again. I was looking forward to seeing Blue Lord in the Lawlers of Naas when he went up against Bob Ollinger. He was far, far too keen in that race and done well to finish as close as he did. Now, we've seen a much better run on the Brian Cooper the last day. Now, I just think this time around, I think if he gets a fast pace and gets to be put in behind horses, I think he might travel away, and I think he'll be the one. I think he's probably very unexposed, and there could be a lot more to come now again if he shows up here, but he looks a bit of value at the minute.
And James?
Yeah, the one I had down was Blue Lord as well, with just the sort of feeling is that this race is sort of been a good one to have, where you're sort of quite a strong traveller. You sort of, as you say, sort of sitting behind, and this horse does look very unexposed. The only horse as well that I've sort of picked out, which we could, the bubble could soon burst on Sunday in the Betfair Hurdle, is Mr. Coffee for Nicky Henderson, who's got some pretty decent form this season. Really, really good winner at Sandown. Disappointed last time and will need to bounce back. But knowing Nicky Henderson and his love for Newbury and Super Saturday and such, Mr. Coffee will probably run quite well on Saturday, and his odds will probably slim if he's good enough. So we'll find out a bit more about him. But whatever he does, he's going to be a proper chaser, that's for sure.
Yeah. And shall we move on to the Albert Bartlett? That's a bit more of an easier race to pick out horses. For me, Fakira at 8-1. Gordon Elliott's training this one. 4th to Gaillard de Menil last time out. 2nd to Ashdale Bob before that. Did beat Fire Attack at Navan in November and beat Gabanaco in November as well. The Albert Bartlett would be a step up in trip. But look, I think he's a very, very tough horse to beat. And the heavier the ground, the better for this one.
Yeah, I've got 3 picked out for this race, actually. You touched on one there for Kira, so I'll not go into that in too much detail, but looks like the step up and trip could definitely be playing to her strengths. Another Gordon Elliott's Fruit de Lane. I think one at Limerick around Christmas time was impressive in its own way. It wasn't standout, but one that I do think that has a big chance, and one of the English horses is Admiral for Tom Lacey. I think his last one there was, he showed real guts and character to get ahead in front and stay in front. Looks like an out and out stayer to me. He's in there at about 25-1. If I was to take a bet, now again I'm not sure if he's going this route or not, but at 25-1, that's great value.
Yeah, Ryan, you were actually very sweet on Gaillard de Menil when it won the last day. I was keeping a very close eye on Statler in that race, owned by the Bartletts, who actually sponsored this race. And the thing for me with Statler is I think they went to the front to try and make the run and just to see what test his stamina. Now, as we all know, Gaillard de Menil was very impressive on that occasion. I just think there could be a little bit more to come from Statler, and there's more than likely a very high chance that he'll end up in this race.
Yeah, it was our Statler finished 2 lengths ahead of Fakira in that race. Do you think that Statler might need soft ground?
Look, by we're talking. What are we talking? We're talking the last day. It's probably going to be running fresh enough ground. Like that's going to be the third hurdle. Like I depending on the weather, but I'd say I think he might sit second or third. I don't see I'd say step up and triple probably suit him. I expect him to run a big race.
And James, we'll finish with you on this one.
Yeah, tough race again, because I think always of a division, this one's really hard to grasp. I think if I was to go for one of the Irish horses, I'd be on Statler, looking at his run the last day. But I do want to flag one up at a pretty big price. This race has had a Manila Undo was, I think, 50-1. And you may remember Kilbrick and Storm all those years ago, 33-1 winner, I think he was. They've got a horse, the Tizzards have got a horse called Killer Kane, who they think the absolute world of. But he's just not quite done it this year. So he went to Aintree in the same race they ran Q Card in, first time over hurdles, and he was second. And he ran at Exeter the other day, and he travelled into the race looking like he was going to win, but he was massively, massively outpaced. And yeah, eventually just, I think he was a lengthy 4-4-5 or something. But you know what? If they step him up to 3 miles, which is exactly what he's going to want, he could massively improve. And look, who knows? He's 50-1. He might get a place, but yeah, this is another one that I'd be pretty confident is going to go to Ireland. But who knows? He could run well at a big price, Killer Kane.
He's in there at 100s. We bet 365.
Well, you'd remember if that one won, then I'm sure.
And they are paying. What are we on the Albert Bartlett? They're putting 3 places. They're paying on that there. 100-1's big price.
Huge.
Yeah.
That'd be a nice one.
Yeah, he's a horse they think a lot of. He cost a lot. His point-to-point form's good, and all up to Exeter, his form was really promising. So it'd be, this race does throw in a surprise, and you know he's definitely one that could improve.
We've seen a vast improvement in the Tizzard horses recently. Anyway, James, do you think maybe their recent bad run around December time there might have had something to do with it, and he could be a better horse now that the yard's starting to pick up again?
Yeah, definitely. The yard has been struggling. They just didn't have they just couldn't fire winners together at all. You know, horses that were meant to run well didn't. Collins said to the Racing Post that you know he's pretty clear that they've had a bug, and I have actually been talking to someone on the racecourse who's saying that bugs can often come through with younger horses. They sort of feel it a lot more. So a lot of his young good prospects, they were getting beat. Whereas his older horses, who are sort of a bit more developed, mature, it doesn't bother them as much, which could explain why Native Rivers ran so well. Not the other week, the time before at Aintree, and Lost in Translation is disappointed, but you know he's another one that should have run better. It's hard to grasp what the problem is. It's one of these things, you know, the horses don't tell you. But in my mind, I think they have turned a corner now, and I do think the winners will roll on. But their problem is they haven't had a Cheltenham Festival winner in quite a few years. So they have got a good team. They haven't got a real, you know, standout chance as of yet. But, you know, it'd be great for them to have a winner with everything that's gone on.
Yeah, no, 100% would, surely.
Yeah, they're getting back in form, which is fantastic to see. And then, yeah, boys, we move on to the big race of the festival, the Cheltenham Gold Cup. Can Album Photo complete the hat-trick? Dean, what do you think?
Yeah, I just love this horse. And like I backed him when he won his first Gold Cup. I actually was in Navan the day he won his beginner's chase. And it's a familiar route that Wally Mullins goes down. He's won it over the year with Vautour and Duvan, Min, you know, Cashback won it, Black Bull won it this year. But he always starts a nice one off in that race. And from that day, it really caught my eye. I think he can do it, but it will be a tough task. You've got the new kid in the block, this Royal Pagal, was mighty impressive in winning at Haydock, was it recently? And then Native River sprung back to form and really soft ground there the last day from the front. So it's going to be a real tough test, but for history's sake and for the game, I would love to see him doing it.
Yep. Alan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else agrees with me on this. I think Album Photo is probably bomb-proof. I think there's like everything else in the field has some sort of question marks around him. He's been there, done it, and he's still in around the 5-2 mark. For me, I think he should be a lot shorter. He won more impressive in Tramore this year than he did last year. Like, there's nothing. Look at Plutar second in the market. Like, that was soft ground in the Savills at Christmas, and look, he stayed on well. I don't know whether it was a slower pace and they stopped and he just got past them. Question marks about him over the trip. I just think Albin Photo, look, it's heading the market, and I'm heading that way all the time. But I think he'll take a world of beating.
Yeah, like I said, he's been there, done it. Well, he's done it twice, really. For me, yeah, I'd agree with you there. He was very impressive at Tremor, and like I said, he did it a lot better than he did it last year as well, beating Acapella Bourgeois. One I do actually like at a big price is Frodon. Paul Nichols and Bryony Frost. Did win the King George, of course, at 20-1, and loves Cheltenham. 13 times Frodon has run at Cheltenham, won 6 of them. So almost 50% strike rate at Cheltenham, which is incredible, really. But like you said, Albin Photo is the one to beat. James?
Yeah, Gold Cup's a bit of a funny one this year, I think, because there really hasn't been anyone really come forward and sort of really put a challenge to him really this season. I mean, he's just sort of gone about his business in the race on New Year's Day. I think for me, he's the one to beat. I think if I was betting on the race, I mean, good old Native River, that was some performance the other day. He is very ground dependent. He's an older horse now, but I think his price is massive, and I can't see why he's that price because he looked so good at Sandown. For me, the really interesting horse in the race is Champ. I mean, you look back at his RSA and the form of it. We've talked about Allaho, and Manila Indo has gone on to some really good things. Champ didn't jump well that day. He was really disappointing. He has not jumped well at all, really, throughout his career. If he has sorted his jumping out, he could be a serious talent. I mean, he is an older horse. He is 9, which is quite an old horse for a sort of second season novice. He's got to learn how to jump, but he's had wind surgery as well. So he is really a really interesting horse. And the other thing about him is, the way he sort of stays as well. That was, if you remember last year's Gold Cup, Albin Photo was hanging on, and he was being challenged by Santini. And, he's not sort of the flashiest of horses. And if you compare the two, Champ and Santini, well, Champ clearly was a lot better as a novice. He clearly is the most sort of interesting of the two horses. So at his prices, he could be a good horse, but he's got to learn to jump, and he's got to prove he's of any sort of ability, because we haven't seen him for a while. But at this stage in time, it's Albums to lose, and what a shame it would be if he completes that magic with nobody there to cheer him on. But that's the world we live in.
Yeah, 100%. I agree completely with what you said in Champ. We don't really know much about him this year at all. But one thing we do know is he definitely has to improve that jumping to be winning the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
But he does have to stay in power to do it. Manila Indo came second to Champ in the RSA last year. I was very keen on Manila Indo to win the Gold Cup this year at the start of the season. But definitely disappointed last time. I don't know what happened, but it was very disappointing. We will move on then, boys, to the Fox Hunter Chase. For me, Billaway for Willie Mullins came second in this race last year. Been very impressive this year. 3 runs, 2 wins. Look, you can't fault him at all. And the end of January was his last win, wasn't it? Patrick Mullins was on board again. Obviously, you have that question mark whether the amateurs will be allowed over to Ireland this year. It came to pass. It's also entered in this with Maxine O'Sullivan. Can she go over this year?
It's a hard one to call, isn't it, James? Have you heard anything or anything around that?
It is a difficult one. I mean, a lot of it comes down to what government says and what government rules are on amateur sport. My inkling is that it's going to be no amateurs this year, to be perfectly honest. It's going to change a lot for the government to really want to change amateur sport in this country because of, the situation we've been in. So yeah, I don't think it will happen, but I really hope it does, because as we say, it's such a huge opportunity for these people, these riders, not just the jockeys, but also the trainers of the Fox Hunters as well, to give the horses that know them best a real chance to ride them in the race, because it's not going to be the same for them as well, knowing there's a jockey who doesn't know the horse as well, because the vet they hunt to chases, some of them are a bit quirky, and having a familiar person on board can often, be a huge difference. So I honestly don't know, but I worry we won't be having amateur riders, and it could be some very famous names winning the Fox Hunters in 1 year.
They I was listening to another podcast, and they had Jamie Codd on, and when Jamie was talking about it, he says that the person that would affect the most is Wally Mullins and Patrick Mullins, because Wally's now down a jockey with the lad retiring there, and like Patrick rides maybe in the Gold Cup anyway, or the Ryanair in the past. Jamie Codd was saying that he could see Patrick maybe turning professional, just for that simple reason, because he could get to go over. But I would like to see something happen where, I know I'm getting off the beaten track, sorry boys, but I'd like to see something happen where maybe they could grant, the amateurs or the conditionals a 3 month or 2 month, professional license for the likes of Cheltenham and Aintree, because at the end of the day, then people they treat themselves as professional athletes. I don't think they should miss out, but it would be nice if something could happen for them, but I can't see it. Moving on to the race again, I like Breakaway, and I think he is, as Ryan says, like, he's won there recently at the end of January, was very, very good. I think he's the banker at the bigger price than the normal bankers are, like, MY Allen and the likes of that. 5-2 there, he's in it. Like, Patrick Mullins loves this race. Whether he gets to ride in it or not is the other question. That's all I have.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going slightly further down the market this time, actually, with a horse from across the water. Hazel Hill won the Fox Hunters back in 2019. Really impressed me at Ludlow last time. Kind of travelled well, came off the bridle, came back onto the bridle, stayed on really well, and won in nice style. I seen in around 14-16 the one there. Look, something to go outside the Irish runners. Taking on It Came to Pass, taking on Breakaway. Could run on into a place and give the viewers a bit of value.
Yeah, James.
Yeah, again, I think it's a really tough race, but Breakaway, you'd have to, you'd seriously sort of think he's the one to beat at this stage in the season. There's two from Britain here that I am keeping an eye on. The World's End, who was a Grade 1 winning staying hurdler, who is going hunter chasing. I think he had one run, he was third. He's going to run again at Haydock on Saturday. He's clearly a very talented horse, and you'd have to think he's got a serious each way chance on just the natural ability he's got. And the other horse is a horse called Shamron, who's trained by Sam Loxton. Would be a really emotional winner if it were to win, for sure. But this is a horse who's been tested in some good grades when he was with Paul Nicholls, and he came there with a bit of a reputation, didn't quite do it. And I remember seeing him actually on a sort of gallop this morning for the Hennessy, and he was with Top of the Game, actually, funny enough. So he'd been in my tracker for a little while. He'd won 2 points last year, and he won Hunter Chase at Leicester. It wasn't particularly the best of performances, but you never know. He could be a bit of a dark horse. I mean, he wouldn't have been, he can't be too bad a horse if he was with Top of the Game.
Yep, that is. I'll be keeping an eye on that one anyway. We move on to the Mayor's Chase. There's one horse that I am very excited to see at Cheltenham here. Annie Mac at 9-1. I've been following Annie Mac for quite a while. Won her last two very impressively. Won at Warwick last time out and really blew them away at Doncaster before that. Was fifth at Cheltenham. The race at Chatham Street Lad won before that as well. She does need the heavy ground. She really does need the heavy ground. She's unbeaten on heavy ground. She's 5 wins from 5 runs on heavy. So, look, if she gets the ground, it's, in my view, it's just a case of by how far she wins. What do you think?
That's going to be a tough one when I'm in the same way with Ellie May. I think it's how far she wins. Really, really impressed me at Naas the last time over 2 mile. Like, if anybody watches this race back, going down the far side, like, Mark Walsh was at pains to get her, give her a couple of reminders just to get her to go with them. But coming to the back of the last, she had them covered. And look, she's going to step up to 2.5. Like, I think she'll end it on a high for favourite backers, and it'll definitely go very close here.
Dean, yourself?
Well, Alan, I like Ellie May a lot. I really, really do. I have been following her since she was a hurdler. But I am going to throw an absolute spanner in the works, as I like to do. Ellie May will not go off favourite, I don't think, because I think Put the Kettle On will go off favourite and 1. I think Henry de Bromhead, if he's looking at it and the sense of as like Wally Mullins done and Ruby Walsh done with Benny DeJew or Annie Power, they go to the race you're going to win. Is she going to go and win the champion chase? Probably not. Is she going to put it up to these mares being a Grade 1 winner? Of course she is. 7-1 about her. You know, I know we'll be talking to Henry later on about it, but I think if Put the Kettle On runs on this here, she will. The rest of them will be just seeing her back end go past them.
James, do you agree with any of them? Or?
Tough one, this one again, because I don't know what sort of horse to look for in this race, but it just always just incredible, isn't it, that this race hasn't even been run yet and Willie Mullins has already got the horses that look absolutely tailor-made for it. I think if I had to pick one, it'd be LMA. Just the fact that she's really got some strong form this season. The run behind Allaho, we might look back at that in a on the day of the Friday for Festival and think, blimey, what a huge run. And then last time she's crushed Shattered Love, who I thought was probably going to be the one to beat in this, actually. She really impressed me that day, and I'm not afraid to say that she certainly changed my mind. She was so good that day. I think she's certainly the one you've got to fear the most.
Yep, that's fair. I'm definitely going against you as well, Ellie May, anyway, and Dean's going against you too. We move on to the final race of the festival. It's the Martin Pipe Handicap Hurdle. I will throw a big price one here, 16-1. Well, I suppose it's not too big on anti-post betting, is it? Richard Newland trains Benson. Had a great season so far. 3 wins from 4 races. Last time I came fourth in the Grade 3 at Ascot. I can't remember what one it was, but it was in December anyway. Is entered into the Supreme and the Ballymore. I think non-runner, no bet will be vital here for this one. I don't know. For me, Benson at 16-1 looks great for this.
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the Irish camp here with Damalisk, trained by Eddie Harty. We all know Eddie Harty can get a winner on the board when he trained Captain CB some years ago. This horse really impressed me at Navan when landing the handicap hurdle, and then was third the last day behind Maze Runner. Now, it's just depending on the handicap mark and all that. I just think Damalisk again, it could be a very good day for JP on the last day.
James.
Yeah, again, I think your comments about non-run or no bet is a really good shout, actually, because this is a really tough race to sort of look at. I mean, for me, I was quite taken by Make Me a Believer when he won at Cheltenham in December. I thought he was a proper, really nice type. He beat some good horses that day, but he always looked as if he's a horse that's probably going to get 3 miles and fences in time. So whether he's good enough to win a Martin Pipe, I don't know. But he's trained by David Pipe. It'd be no surprise if they've sort of had this in mind from the start of the season. And we mentioned that race at Warwick not too long ago. He was a horse that caught my eye most out of that, and that was over 2.5, 2.6. So, yeah, he's got some class. He's unexposed, and there's a big family connection. So they'll be absolutely certainly want to win it. So he's the one for me, and I'm pretty confident he'd go. So yeah, Make Me a Believer.
Yeah, like you said there, but non-honourable bet there, you agreed with me though. I really do think it is absolutely vital here for this race. If you're going to have a bet on the anti-post. Dean, you get the pleasure of picking the last horse of the Cheltenham Festival.
Oh, great. Yeah, just whenever you're on about the Martin Pipe connection, or the Pipe connection there, it's always a race Gordon Elliott loves to have a winner as well. And because of his connection with the Pipe family as well. Fakira was one I had down, but again, I mentioned her in a previous one. 14-1. Like if she goes here or she goes to the other race, really, Gordon Elliott will be sending something to win this race without a shadow of a doubt. So it is something to keep an eye on. But one I do like that has won at Cheltenham recently enough as well is the Shunter for Emmett Mullins. If he rocks up here, he could be a big danger, because it wouldn't be like Emmett Mullins to be able to pull one out of the bag. This horse will have had a couple of maybe questionable runs before it gets to Cheltenham, just to make sure he's got a good mark. And I think he there at 16-1 could be one to keep an eye on.
Yeah. So the Shunter is the last horse in our Cheltenham review. James, we'll finish with you anyway. Is there anything else that caught your eye on day 1 or day 2?
Yeah, there's a few. I like Dicky Diver for the not the 4 miler, the National Hunt Chase, who's only had one run over fences over a trip way too short, run a really, really nice race. And I just feel he's absolutely made for the race at quite a big price. I think he's about 10-1. Big Breakaway is a horse that I think I've been playing the trumpet of for quite a while now, not just me as well, I'm sure. I know he's got to take on Monkfish, but he's going to be a really big price for that race, and he's a proper chaser. He didn't run well he didn't jump well at Kempton, but I still think he will prove a very good jumper in time. Apparently his schooling is excellent, so from home there's certainly no worry about that. And I mean, he's a horse that's going to improve at Cheltenham. He's already won there. For me, he's a really, really good horse, and I think he's a bit of a forgotten one. He might give Monkfish something to think about. So yeah, I do like him at a big price. But yeah, it's going to be something. Can't wait for it. Wish we could all go, but yeah, what a shame.
James, sorry, Ryan. Just going to ask James just one question, just on Robbie Powell. Is there probably a high possibility that he'll pick up still the same rate that he had for Tizards prior to him coming back?
When he comes back and how long he comes back for, we don't know at this point in time. I think it's difficult for Robbie Powell, because I'm sure he'll come over for Cheltenham for sure. We know that, but it's whether he wants to stay here for Aintree or go back for Punchestown. I think he's probably going to have to decide between one of the two because of the quarantine rules, and I think that's going to be a decision a lot of jockeys and trainers and people have to make. But I think when COVID ends, by the sounds of it, they certainly want him to stay. I mean, he's a very good jockey to have, isn't he? He's a real asset. And they also, John Joy Neal, they always use. He's obviously got his dad, Harry Cobden's with Nichols. So having a sort of core jockey in there is going to be pretty crucial for them, because they have got a lot of horses and they are always expanding as well.
Yeah. Yep. And James, I want to ask you 2 questions here. Do you think Shishkin wins the Arkle?
Yes. I have to say Shishkin is a little bit special. I mean, the more you watch his Supreme back, everything went wrong and he could have been a very unlucky loser. But the fact he won just shows, I just feel there's something quite special about him. And I feel that the others, it's going to be a hell of a race, that Arkle. I cannot wait for it. But I just feel Shishkin is just going to be a league above. And to be honest, I think they should. I still think they should have run in the Champion Chase. I think he would have won that. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe next year.
Do you have any worries about Energumen?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a quality horse, and he is the sort of horse that would trouble a Shishkin. But I do think Shishkin's a bit of a monster. And you know what these monsters do for Nicky Henderson? They go on to win 2, 3, 4. So maybe he's another one.
Yep, that's fair. I think we're all in the Energumen camp, are we, lads?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do like him, Energumen, but it's, I've always tried to pick holes and Shishkin's chase runs because of who he's come up against. Like, I was saying to the lads the other day, James, like, he's come up against people that's not within 12 pounds of him, so he shouldn't technically be getting beat by that caliber of a horse. And I just think it's going to be really interesting this circle, as you say. You've got Energumene likes the front run. All Mankind is just going to buck out and do whatever the hell he wants, really. Then you've got Suskin, maybe Franco de Port coming in. It's definitely going to be one of the best races of the card. But Suskin kind of reminds me a lot of Altior. People, we kind of try to write him off in a way, but as James says there, his Supreme One showed his true class. But I would like to see a real good race here. But I would take him on just for the fact of making a race of it.
Yeah. And James, the last thing I want to ask you is, do you think Honeysuckle will win the Champion Hurdle?
Yes, I do. I have to say, I think she's a little bit special as well. Actually, I mean, we talk about Shishkin, her win the last day. I mean, we'd always said, blimey, she's good, but that was something else. The way she went through the race. I like Hepaton, but she's got so much to prove. She won what was a pretty weak Champion Hurdle last year. I mean, I remember I worked the Tuesday last year. I remember sitting in the press room and looking through the last winners, and they'd all been unbeaten that season. Hepaton was the only one that wasn't. So perhaps she was the best horse at the time, but yeah, Honeysuckle is definitely the one to beat. But my word, it's just going to be some first day. I mean, it's a cracking first day already. But yeah, I do think Honeysuckle will win. It's just going to be a case of who beats her.
Yeah, James, I was saying to the lads when we were talking about it the other day, she is the standout mare on the race, and Hepaton has it to prove now after being beaten, but one, I just want to know your thoughts on it. One that I thought that maybe can't be ruled out is Bruvadere, because his last comeback run, he just seemed to, the race was kind of there as, right, let's see how you are. If you have your same old spark, we'll continue on. If you're pulled up, tailed off, well, you can go to Martinstown and have a happy retirement. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, actually. I thought it was encouraging. I don't think it was the sort of thing I'd watch and go, blimey, he's back to his best. I'd back him for a Champion Hurdle, but I wouldn't rule him out at this point in time. The thing is with Bruvadere, he's a really proper hurdler. The way he jumps, the way he just goes about his business, and a bit like Honeysuckle, actually. So I feel that he's the sort of horse who would have improved massively for the run, and I also feel that Haydock, that sort of ground, is just not what Bruvadere wants. He's a classy, speedy sort of hurdler. No, I definitely wouldn't rule him out. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? For years we were saying Bruvadere's, overrated and stuff, but now we're going back to him thinking he's a threat, But yeah, I wouldn't rule him out, but I wouldn't back him at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be jumping and all guns blazing on him, but at 22-1, he could be maybe picking up a place there. I think Honeysuckle is going to take all the beating, and she's just absolutely fantastic, and she really is special. Yeah,
and I hope she does as well, because it's great for everyone involved for them to win a Champion Hurdle. It'd be an amazing result.
Especially whenever you see they could take the easy route and go for the Mayor's Hurdle again and play it safe and get the prize money, keep the unbeaten record, but they fancy their chances, so they're taking, which is good to see for the game too.
Yeah, well, a gambler's going to want to gamble, isn't he? So
yeah, and look, it's great to have these superstars really shine through, like Honeysuckle and Voyala, and all unbeaten. It's absolutely great for the sport as well to have a star of the sport. You have every other sport has the stars, and it's great to have these in racing. That wraps up the Cheltenham preview completely. James, thanks very much for coming on. If you aren't familiar with James, be sure to check out his stuff on the Racing Post. It's exceptional.
You're very kind.
So it's just the truth. That's it. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe.
Yeah, thanks, James.